Welcome to Cyber Bytes, your weekly dose in the latest in cybersecurity news. I'm your host, Edwin Kwan, and today's episode is packed with both local and global developments. From the major Qantas data breach shaking Australian consumers, to Mozilla's privacy push and a brand new VPN experiment. We're going to be looking into why court injunctions may just be the thoughts and prayers of cybersecurity, and we'll be unpacking Australia's latest cyber threat reports, and we'll round things off with a retail breach impacting fashion giant Mango. So let's dive right in. So first up, one of the biggest stories making headlines in Australia is a massive data breach affecting customers of Qantas. Personal data belonging to roughly 5.7 million customers have been leaked on the dark web after a compromise associated with Salesforce, which is the cloud software Qantas used to manage customer data. The hacker group, calling themselves Scattered Lapis Hunters, is claiming responsibility. So what's been exposed? Unfortunately, it's quite comprehensive. Full names, email addresses, phone numbers, home addresses, date of births, frequent flyer details, and even meal preferences in some cases. Now, Qantas customers are being urged to take immediate precautions, and that includes enabling multi-factor authentication on your accounts, changing your Qantas password. I know, it's just a 4-digit PIN. Monitoring financial statements and staying alert for scams or phishing messages posing as Qantas or compensation teams. Now, Qantas has set up a 24/7 support line and even brought in specialist identity protection services for affected users. However, the fallout has been severe enough that Maurice Blackburn lawyers have filed a complaint with the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner alleging that Qantas failed to adequately safeguard customer information. It's a developing case, and depending on how the investigation unfolds, customers might eventually receive compensation, though Qantas is expected to argue that Salesforce's compromise is technically to blame. Either way, this is a wake-up call again for any organizations relying on third-party cloud vendors, and that is that your security perimeter is only as strong as your weakest supplier. Now, let's talk about how companies are responding, or rather not responding effectively to data breaches. Security researcher Troy Hunt, who's the person behind Have I Been Pawned, has published a sharp critique comparing corporate court injunctions to just being thoughts and prayers after a tragedy. It's well-intended, but ultimately useless. So here's the context. When organizations have data stolen, they often rush to obtain court injunctions aiming at preventing hackers from publishing or sharing that information. But as Troy points out, these legal tools only apply to law-abiding citizens and entities operating within the jurisdiction, and certainly not to the overseas hacker groups who are responsible for it. Take the case of the HWL Epsworth, the Australian law firm breach by the Alpha ransomware gang. Despite an injunction prohibiting publication, the hackers simply dumped the stolen data online. And now, with the Qantas breach, the same pattern is playing out. Qantas secured an injunction, but the hacker groups don't operate under Australian law. The injunction might stop journalists or researchers from reporting on the leaks, but it won't stop criminals from circulating the stolen data. Troy Hunt argues that instead of creating a false sense of control, these injunctions can actually make things worse by hindering transparency and disseminating of crucial information that could help protect victims. In short, legal paperwork isn't cybersecurity. It's performative. It's a tick boxing. Real protection requires technical measures, quick patching, strong encryption, and open communication with affected users. Now, shifting gears to the strategic picture, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre has just released its annual cyber threat report for 2024 to 2025. And the picture is, it's concerning, but it's not surprising. The ACSC recorded a 13% increase in reported cyber incidents compared to last year, with ransomware, data breaches, and supply chain attacks all on the rise. One worrying trend: critical infrastructure, energy, communications, transport all continues to be high-value targets. Attackers, both state-sponsored and criminal, are using increasingly sophisticated methods, including AI-driven automation and social engineering, to infiltrate systems that Australians rely on daily. The report highlights how cybercrime has evolved into a business ecosystem. Tools for carrying out attacks, such as ransomware kits, phishing templates, exploit scripts, can now be bought or rented on the dark web markets for minimal cost. It's the commoditization of cybercrime. The ACSC's recommendation to organizations remains very consistent. Number 1, apply software patches promptly. Number 2, use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication. Number 3, train staff to identify phishing or social engineering attempts. And lastly, regularly back up critical systems and data. But beyond these tactical steps, the report emphasizes collaboration. The idea is that cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue. Instead, it is a national resilience effort. As Australia invests more in its cybersecurity strategy and engages with partners across the Indo-Pacific, coordination between the public and private sectors will be vital to counter both criminal groups and state actors. The bottom line is, the threat landscape is widening. Prevention and preparedness needs to keep pace. On a lighter note, but still serious privacy note, Mozilla is working on something interesting. They're experimenting with a built-in VPN directly inside the Firefox browser. Now, this isn't the separate paid Mozilla VPN you might have heard of before. This is a free integrated VPN right in the browser's interface, designed to give users an extra layer of anonymity while surfing. It currently sits next to the search bar in the beta build. When enabled, it routes your browsing activity through Mozilla's managed VPN servers, masking your IP address and encrypting traffic. The first beta phase is limited to desktop users, but a mobile rollout is expected later. Mozilla says logs will be retained for just 3 months and only for troubleshooting and security reliability. It's not for tracking the website's users' visits. Now, this approach aligns with Mozilla's long-held stance on privacy by design. Their goal is to develop the most privacy-friendly browser in the market and keep up the competition with Chrome, Edge, and Safari, all of which face growing scrutiny over data use and ads. For consumers like us, this could be a promising step, an easy built-in solution to add encryption for everyday browsing without installing extra software or browser extensions. And for our final story, it is about a data breach in the retail space, this time involving Spanish fashion retailer Mango. Mango disclosed that an external marketing vendor suffered unauthorized access to customer data used in promotional campaigns. The compromised records included first names, countries, postcodes, email addresses, and phone numbers. Now here's the good news. There's no financial data, there's no last names or any identification details that were exposed. However, that doesn't make this low risk. Attackers can still leverage partial data in their phishing campaigns, impersonating the brand to trick customers into revealing more sensitive information. Mango has confirmed that its own IT system remains secure, business operations are unaffected, and all required notifications have been sent to data protection authorities, including Spain's AEPD. Interestingly, no ransomware group has claimed responsibility yet. That suggests that this might have been a targeted data harvesting exercise rather than a classic ransom operation. Either way, it underscores a recurring theme this week. Third-party vendors remains one of the softest targets in any company's supply chain. For businesses, that means vendor risk management can't just be a checklist. It's a continuous audit process. You need to know who handles your data, how it's stored, and what happens if things go wrong. And that's it for this week's Cyber Bytes. Until next time, stay safe online.